2 years later, Miyazaki would make his grand return to the director's chair since Porco Rosso with his most epic film, Princess Mononoke. It's the story of Ashitaka, whose arm got infected by a demon. The only way he could save himself from inevitable doom is to leave his village and head west to see with eyes unclouded by hate. But along his journey, he finds himself in a big war between the people of Irontown and the gods of the forest, in order for one to leave the land. Now Ashitaka is stuck in the middle to stop the war and find a way to bring peace to the people and animals of the land. The idea all began somewhere in the late 70s, where Hayao Miyazaki drew some sketches of a princess with a beast in the woods. The original story he thought up was supposed to be based on Beauty and the Beast, where a princess was forced to marry this giant happy cat by her feudal lord father possessed by evil spirits, and now the princess has to save her dad from those that possess him. He began writing and doing some storyboards on August 1994, but that was when he was faced with some major issues. First off, society around him has completely changed since he first thought of his idea, so maybe the story hasn't aged well. Second, plenty of the elements in this were already done in My Neighbor Totoro, like how the beast the princess married split into the cat bus and Totoro. And third, Miyazaki really wanted to do another movie at the same time, being Boro the Caterpillar, which tells the story of a little caterpillar going from one tree to another that's across the street. Because of all this going on at the same time, Miyazaki had major writer's block. So in order to clear his mind, he accepted to work on doing the music video for Chage and Asuka's On Your Mark. Once that was done, he felt completely refreshed and was ready to fully get into Mononoke. In May of 1995, he started working on the storyboards and brought his crew to do some research in the ancient forest of Yakushima and the mountains of Shirakami-sanshi. And then, 2 months later, that was when production officially began. For the setting of the film, Miyazaki's intention wasn't really to fully recreate medieval Japan. He wanted to create an environment that feels like the beginning of the period when industrial civilization is conflicting with the natural world. Although there isn't a lot that was used, there are some elements that were done by computer that was mixed with traditional animation. These include some composition, digital painting, and a bit of CGI. Speaking of traditional, there is a total of 144,000 animation cells used in the film, and Miyazaki did corrections on 80,000 of them. Also, this is the last major animated feature to use animation cells, and at the time, it was the most expensive anime to make with a budget of 2.1 billion yen. When thinking about the title, they were stuck between choosing two of them. One was The Legend of Ashitaka, or Tale or something or whatever, and Princess Mononoke, which the full translation is Princess of Vengeful Spirits. On one hand, Toshio Suzuki really liked Princess Mononoke, but then there's Miyazaki, who rather liked The Legend of Ashitaka. In fact, he even made an entirely new kanji for it. But in the end, the winner was Princess Mononoke. When it was released on July 12, 1997, the movie broke new grounds. It defeated E.T. at becoming the highest grossing film in Japan of all time, making 14.5 billion yen at the box office. Too bad though that it didn't hold that position for long when Titanic took its place. Also, the movie received massive critical acclaim, with critics saying that with its epic story and breathtaking visuals, Princess Mononoke is a landmark in the world of animation. Since the deal with Disney and Tokuma was made on August 1996, this is their first Studio Ghibli film where they handled the English dub before anyone else. In this case, they left their subsidiary, Miramax Films, in charge of the English version and the distribution for the film. However, the chairman of Miramax, Harvey Weinstein, really wanted to make some edits for Mononoke. Seems that someone didn't get Miyazaki's memo. So, in response to Weinstein's demands, the guys at Ghibli decided to send him a katana with a little note that says, "No cuts." Just be lucky that they didn't send him a wolf girl just to remind him of that. Anyways, to translate the movie, they brought in author Neil Gaiman. When doing the job, he decided to simplify some Japanese terminologies that are not so familiar outside of the country. A good example includes words like jibashiri and shishigami are now just mercenary and forest spirit. This is why some people observe that there is a difference between the English dub and the English subtitles, since the latter is a literal translation to the original script. For the voices, they originally thought of having Leonardo DiCaprio as Ashitaka, but then the part was given to Billy Crudup. Other notable actors include Billy Bob Thornton as Jigo, Minnie Driver as Lady Eboshi, Gillian Anderson as Moro, the wolf goddess, and Keith David as Okoto, the boar god. Because of some negative results at a test screening and unpleased that they weren't allowed to edit anything, Miramax released the film in North America 2 years later in far fewer theaters than they were originally promised. This resulted in the movie to flop in the US and Canada, and Disney was surprised and unamused by what Miramax did. Today's lesson? Never leave your animated projects in the hands of Harvey Weinstein, because if you do, stuff like this happens. But Miramax's controversy doesn't end there. When they announced the DVD release, they said that they would only include the English dub. This let out massive outrage from the fans, and protests were made to demand that the Japanese dub was to be included. This resulted the DVD to be delayed, and later to be released not only with the English and Japanese dub, but also included a trailer and a special short documentary about the English version of the film. For awards, it did get nominated for an Annie for Best Directing, but it was also the first ever animated feature to actually win Best Picture at the Japanese Academy Awards. This is something that doesn't even happen in the American version. Heck, we'd be really lucky if we ever saw one get nominated. In 2012, Whole Hog Theater made a stage adaptation of Mononoke that was helped brought into fruition by Wallace and Gromit creator Nick Park. The show would feature large puppets made out of recycled material, and it ended up receiving great reviews. With such a big impact, Princess Mononoke would find itself on several different top lists, including number 488 on Empire's 500 Greatest Films, number 6 on Roger Ebert's Top 10 Movies of 1999, number 26 on Terry Gilliam and Top Film's 50 Greatest Animated Films, and number 28 on Time Out's Top 100 Best Animated Films. After the release of Princess Mononoke, Miyazaki went into a press conference, officially announcing that the movie would be his last and he would no longer make any more feature films due to the fact that he's starting to get old. Also, on January 14th, 1998, he decided to quit Studio Ghibli, but not fully. He would still be there to give a helping hand. The reason why he did that was to make room for the new, to give space to the new generation of animators that would carry the legacy of the studio. As the new millennium would enter upon them, things were rather simple and calm at the studio. The new animators were working on some shorts that Miyazaki wrote for the upcoming Ghibli Museum, while the older crew would join them later after they completed Isao Takahata's 1999 film My Neighbor the Yamadas. However, in the summer of '99, like he would any summer, Miyazaki would relax in his mountain cabin with his family and their friends. This time, it was to celebrate producer Seiji Okada's daughter's 10th birthday. He would spend some good quality time with all 5 girls that were there, which would inspire him to create another movie. One that would be what every 10-year-old girl wanted to see. Not about a subject of a love story, but about a heroine they could look up to. So Miyazaki decided to return to Studio Ghibli and proposed 3 films to create. One was an adaptation of the book Kirino Mukou no Fushijina Machi, the second was about some sort of teenage heroine, and the third was the movie he wanted to make for those girls. Ultimately, and rightfully so, the third one was chosen, and it would be called Spirited Away. It's about Chihiro, who is moving to a new home with her parents as they stumble upon an abandoned area. As she explores around the place, she discovers that she is in the spirit world, and her parents were turned into pigs. Don't worry, Chihiro. If Porco Rosso taught me anything, everybody will just get used to it. It'll be like nothing happened to them. But now that Chihiro is stuck in the spirit world, she has to work her way in the spirit's bathhouse and encounter many of the strange and unique inhabitants in order to save her parents and herself. When the proposal for the film got accepted, the production began in 2000 with a budget of 1.9 billion yen. As Hayao Miyazaki made this film, he wasn't just doing it for the 10-year-old girls. He also wanted to shed light on a rather adult social issue he was not happy about, and that is regarding the prostitution problem in Japan. You see, for a while, there are some areas where only men can go to these bathhouses to get some, pleasurable massages from these women called yuna, and the owners of these bathhouses are referred to as yubaba. Also, when a woman becomes a prostitute, they would have to change their names to cover their true identity. This is evident by how the movie does exactly that. The women working in the bathhouse are being referred to as Yuna, Chihiro had to change her name to Sen once she began working there, and the main villain who owns the bathhouse is actually named Yubaba. Not only that, but there was also the instance where No Face tried to give Chihiro some gold in a rather unusual way. You'd think that some of the spirits in this movie are based on Japanese myths and legends, but in actuality, some were inspired by real events that happened to Miyazaki. The scenes where Chihiro had to clean the river spirit was taken from a time where he had to clean a river and actually had to take out a bicycle from it. Another character like this is No Face, where it's said that he's very similar to Miyazaki himself, where he wants to get in the hearts of people, even if he doesn't really know how. For the setting and architecture of the spirit world, they were heavily inspired by the Edo Tokyo Open Air Architecture Museum in Kogane, Tokyo. Miyazaki would frequently visit the place that it would start to become less for research and more for himself, considering that he really liked the museum. For the song in the closing credits, Always With Me, it was originally intended for another Miyazaki film that never got made. However, he kept on playing the song over and over again during production that he decided might as well put it into this film. During production, the biggest challenge for the movie was to reduce the length, since the original script would go for more than 3 hours. It wasn't easy picking which scenes to cut out, but the ones removed were those that focused less on the plot and more on just showing pretty visuals. Since Ghibli's last film, My Neighbor the Yamadas, was their first feature film to be completely done digitally, this movie is noted as the first Ghibli film to be digitally processed with DLP technology, and also Ghibli's first film to use Dolby Digital EX 6.1 and DTS ES 6.1 surround sound. When it was released on July 20th, 2001, the movie did so well to the point that it's legendary. It received universal acclaim with critics saying that Spirited Away is a dazzling, enchanting, and gorgeously drawn fairy tale that will leave viewers a little more curious and fascinated by the world around them. At the box office, it landed a world record for being the first foreign film to earn more than $200 million before even coming to the US. Speaking of which, when Disney was assigned to translate the movie in English, Pixar's John Lasseter was in charge of making sure that this dub would do justice to a monumental film like Spirited Away. Not only getting an all-star cast, but also an all-star crew, including Aladdin producer Don Ertz and one of the directors of Beauty and the Beast, Kirk Wise, to be in charge of directing, and Cindy and Don Hewitt to write the dialogue. And yes, since John's in charge and would treat this like he would to a Pixar movie, he even brought in John Ratzenberger to play Aniyaku, and even improvised his dancing song.
Welcome the rich man. He's hard for you to miss. His butt keeps getting bigger, so there's plenty there to kiss.
Coincidentally, this isn't the first time that Jason Marsden and Suzanne Pleshette were in the same animated feature, whom, by the way, played Haku and Yubaba and her twin sister Zeniba, respectively. They also played Kovu and Zira from the 1998 direct-to-video sequel, The Lion King 2: Simba's Pride. Also, sadly, this film would be marked as Suzanne's final performance in a movie before she passed away in 2008. Nowadays, people across the world would regard this as not only Miyazaki's masterpiece, but also one of the greatest animated features ever made, presented in plenty of top lists, including in the top 10 of BFI's list of top 50 films you should see by the age of 14, number 10 on Empire's top 10 best films of world cinema, number 2 on Time Out's top 100 best animated films, the highest rated traditionally animated feature on Metacritic's, and the highest ranking animated feature on IMDb's top 250. Maybe as you're watching this, there's some new big animated film that just took its place and now the fact is no longer valid? Well, just in case, let me just say, yeah, we'll see how that goes in the long run. I say give it a few months and Spirited Away will take back its place. In terms of awards, it won twice at the Japanese Academy Awards for Best Song and Best Picture, making this and Princess Mononoke, so far, the only two animated features to ever win that award. It was also the first ever animated film to win the Golden Bear at the Berlin International Film Festival, where it shared it with Bloody Sunday. But then, in 2003, the movie won an Oscar for Best Animated Feature, making this also the first and most likely only foreign feature film to win that award. I say most likely because God knows how many times the Academy will always give it to either Disney or Pixar. Because of this, Disney decided to expand the amount of theaters they would show it from 151 to 714. Yeah, I forgot to mention that they really didn't try when it came to the marketing. Anyways, this increase also boosted its box office total, growing into 30.4 billion yen, knocking Titanic out to officially earn the position of the highest grossing film ever in Japan. With Spirited Away being one of Japan's biggest hits of all time, things couldn't get better for Ghibli as they follow it up a year later with The Cat Returns. It's about a girl named Haru who one day saved a cat in the middle of the street. But it turns out that he's no ordinary cat. He's actually the prince of the Cat Kingdom, and the residents there are so grateful, including the king, that they decided that she will marry the prince. Obviously, she finds that weird, but the cats are taking her anyway. Now, with the help of some cats outside of the kingdom, like the Baron and Muta, Haru must find a way to escape the kingdom and always remember to believe in herself. Out of all the Studio Ghibli movies ever made, this is actually the closest they've done to a follow-up. This is actually a spin-off to their 1995 film, Whisper of the Heart. Specifically, it's a take on the story Shizuku would write and would go in these fantasies with the Baron, which she based on a figurine of a properly dressed cat in an antique shop. The character of the Baron actually became so popular that the people at Ghibli knew that they had to make another project with the character. As for the movie itself, the production began in 1999 as The Cat Project, which was supposed to be a 20-minute short with cats for a theme park in Japan. When Miyazaki got involved, he knew that there should be 3 elements included that were from Whispers of the Heart: the Baron, Muta, and the antique shop. Also, the author of the manga that Whispers was based on, Aoi Hiraki, was commissioned to do the manga version of the short called Baron, Neko no Danshaku, or Baron, the Cat Returns. However, while they were prepping up for the short, the theme park decided to cancel the project. That sucks. Well, I guess I can make a nice standalone short. After the cancellation, the project became a little experimental tool for workers who would like to be the next Ghibli director. But then came Hiroyuki Morita, a rather new animator at Ghibli who began working on My Neighbor the Yamadas. With the help from the manga, he created a 525-page storyboard of his interpretation of the project. Both Miyazaki and Toshio Suzuki were so impressed with the storyboards, especially with the character of Haru, that they decided to turn it into a feature-length film with Morita directing it. When it was released on July 19, 2002, the movie became quite successful both critically and financially with 6.46 billion yen, making it the highest grossing film in 2002 at the Japanese domestic box office, and would win the Excellence Prize at the 2002 Japan Media Arts Festival. In 2005, Disney released the DVD of the film with an English dub that features an all-star cast that includes Anne Hathaway as Haru, Tim Curry as the Cat King, Kristen Bell as Hiromi, Andy Richer as Natoru, Peter Boyle as Muta in his only anime role, and Carrie Elways as the Baron, who also voiced the same role in the English version of Whisper of the Heart.
There now, your body matches your brain.